What's up everybody, Teancum here with Sew Yeah Quilting. These book panels have been showing up all over the place, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to make them and assemble them. Let's get started. Now let's dive right on into the supplies and the cutting instructions for this project. As far as supplies go, we need one book panel and we also need one large piece of scrap batting. To cut this out, I'm going to move this batting out of the way and we'll just work on the panel. We're going to open up the panel. And as you can see, around each cutout there's a black line. Normally we would cut right on that line, but we want to cut 1/4 inch away from that line to give us enough wiggle room to put all of our pages in properly. So I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and my ruler here. I'm going to line it up and cut 1/4 inch away. So your book pages should look just like this. The reason why we're cutting 1 inch away from that black line is because most book panels are printed on a little bit of a slant. So we want to make sure we have plenty of room to pull that slant out. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of my pieces, but the other piece that I would like to show you is that here at the bottom of this book panel, I've got these little teeny frog feet, which these will have to be cut out by scissors, and again we want to cut 1/4 inch away from that black line. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that and we'll be right back. Now that I've cut all my pieces out, what I've done is I've stacked these in sequential order. On all of these panel books there's going to be numbers at the bottom corners, and for instance you'll have a low number and a high number. We want to stack them from all the low numbers on up. So as you can see here, I've got number 1 and number 10, and then I have number 9 and number 2. So I'm always just going to keep stacking them up from lowest to highest, whatever the lowest number is on the page up to the highest. Then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to start with our first 2 pieces and we're going to lay them right sides together. I'm going to move these aside so I can just be working on one piece. We're going to stack this right sides together just like this. Then we're going to take our batting and we're going to lay down a strip of our batting just like that, and we're going to lay this right on top. So what we want to line up here, there are a couple reference points that we want to make sure we line up perfectly. What we want to do is line up our corners here, our black corners, and our center seam. So I'm going to lay these down and line them up real nice. Then from here I'm going to take a couple of pins and I'm going to pin this down, that way I know for sure that nothing's going to move on me. I'm going to just put one in the corners. So I've got that all lined up. I'm going to just take my rotary cutter. I'm going to cut right down the side just so I have a smaller piece of fabric to work with. I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine. Where I'm going to sew, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch away from this black line, which will pretty much line up right on our color here, or our panel itself. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, line that up, and what I want to do is I want to start towards the middle bottom of my page here, and we're going to want to leave about a 5-inch hole, that way we can turn this whole thing inside out. Then I'm going to do a pivot and turn this around. I'm going to sew all the way around. Now that I have this all sewn and I've left that gap on the bottom, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to trim this all the way up right on that black line. So I'm going to just cut off the excess here. And then in the corners, I'm going to cut the corners, that way we get a really nice good fold on them when we turn it inside out. We're going to pull out our pins, and then we're going to turn this right sides out. And again, you have 3 layers here, so we're just going to turn the 2 layers of panel right side out, which will then push the batting in. So just like this, turn, turn, turn. Now I have this all laid out, I'm going to take a purple thing and I'm going to punch out these corners. Just so you know, if you use the code PURPLE for the next 30 days, you will receive a free purple thing with any purchase on our website. But I absolutely love this tool because it just gets these corners so perfect for us. So I'm going to just finish this up on both sides. Then I'm going to take this over to the iron and press this super flat. Now to finish up this one page, what we're going to do is, as you can see here, the bottom's still open. I'm going to tuck in the bottom here. I'm going to put a couple pins in it to make sure it stays in place. Now what I'm going to do is take this back to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew like a 1/8 of an inch seam all the way around, which will seal this hole and give it a nice decorative look all the way around. So this is what our page looks like. I'm going to repeat the same process for the rest of the pages except for one page. One page I'm going to have to add these little frog legs, which I'll show you how to do, and then we'll be right back. Now let me show you how you sew on these feet. First thing that we got to do is get a little scrap piece of batting and we're going to layer the feet just like we've been layering the pages themselves. The only difference is this time we're going to leave the entire top portion of these legs open. So I'm going to just go around and kind of do an outline around these frog legs. So I'm going to take them over to my machine. I'm going to follow my black lines that I have here as close as possible. And on every panel book, there's always something that's hanging off of them. In this case, it's these frog legs, but I've done some that are American flags. I've done some that are little pig's feet, so it always just depends on the panel book itself. What I'm going to do now is just trim a 1/4 inch around where I just sewed. That way I can get some pretty good lines. And just like before, I'm going to just turn them right sides out and use my purple thing to make sure I get all the edges turned properly. Now I got my frog's feet sewn. On the second to last panel, which is the most normal one to have this, is where you're supposed to attach your little frog legs. What I do that's different than what most people do is that's the part that I leave open. I leave where I'm going to attach my feet open and turn my page through there. That way, when I come to put my frog legs in, I can make sure it's exactly how I want it to look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slip these frog legs right inside. I'm going to turn my fabric over and I'm going to line these up so it visually looks really good. And then I'm going to take some straight pins and I'm going to pin my front side to my frog legs here. And then I'm going to repeat this exact same process on the back. So I'm going to turn this guy over. I'm going to fold over my edge. Take my straight pin, and this time I'm going to pin all the way through. Now that I have everything pinned in place, I'm going to do my 1/8 inch seam all the way around, which will seal my hole and sew my frog legs in. So now this has really cute frog legs. Now we're going to assemble the entire book together. Now to finish up this project, it's super easy. We're going to line up our numbers on the bottom of our pages in sequential order. So I've got number 1 here and I have number 2 here, so I'm going to put those together. 3 and I got number 4 right here. So I'm going to lay these down together just like this. And then you can see that there's a white dotted line all the way down. We want to make sure all of our white dotted lines on every page line up. So I'm going to just double check to make sure everything's real good. We're going to take this over to our sewing machine and sew right down that line. And we need to not forget to backstitch. So we need a backstitch on both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to just squeeze this underneath my needle here. So I'm going to squeeze this right underneath my needle here. I'm going to do my back stitch, line everything up so it lines up right, and we're going to just sew all the way down. back stitch. So just like that, our panel book is done. This is a super fun project to make and very easy to do, and the kids absolutely love these. If you've liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't be afraid to share it with your friends. As always, we're going to leave instructions on how to make this in the description below, and don't forget, if you use the code PURPLE at checkout on our website, you'll receive a free purple thing. My name's Teancum, teaching how to sew like a pro. We'll see you here next week at Sew Yeah Quilting.